sometime near the edge of winter, when the Atlantic wind cut through bone and memory alike. A salt-stained cottage leaned crooked against the Maine coastline. Its shutters flapped like broken wings, its windows dull with decades of salt and secrets. Sarah Chen stood at the threshold, 8 months pregnant, gripping a ring of rusted keys that had cost her everything she had left. $250 for oceanfront property where it should have been a miracle. Instead, it felt like a mistake that had been waiting for her. When the door finally gave way beneath her trembling hand, a wave of metallic air spilled out, thick with decay and something older. Something that watched. The floorboards moaned beneath her boots like the house was exhaling after a long silence. But Sarah wasn't just any expectant mother desperate for a roof above her belly and a future. She was a former crime scene investigator. A woman who had once studied blood-like language, who had seen enough death to recognize its signature, even when time tried to erase it. And as her eyes traced the dark streaks bleeding through the living room wall, she realized what no one else had. Those weren't stains from water or rust. They were spatter patterns. Blood. Fresh once not long ago. Then from somewhere below came the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps. Not echoes. Not the creak of settling wood. Real footsteps, heavy, human, and wrong. Her breath caught in her throat as she froze, her pulse drumming in her ears. The cellar door at the end of the hallway quivered slightly, the sound of movement ceasing mid-step, as if whoever was below had realized they were no longer alone. She backed toward the front door, fumbling for the handle, but it refused to turn, locked from the inside. Her voice cracked the silence. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the whisper of wind pushing through the gaps in the old frame. Then a voice, weak and strained. "Don't be scared. Please." A young man stepped into view at the bottom of the staircase, his clothes damp, his face hollowed by days without sleep. "My name's Marcus," he said, hands raised as if to prove he carried no weapon. "I've been hiding here for 3 days. Marcus said no one would come." Sarah's grip tightened on the nearest thing she could find, a brass candlestick from a table layered in dust. "Marcus who?" she demanded. The man swallowed hard. "The one who sold you the house." And just like that, the entire purchase unraveled in her mind. The twitchy realtor, his refusal to meet her eyes, the way he'd nearly shoved the keys into her hand before driving away without a word. "You shouldn't have come here," the stranger whispered. "They don't like visitors, not after what happened to my sister." Storms rolled in from the sea that week, devouring the sky in gray and thunder. The cottage shuddered through the nights, its timbers groaning like an old ship trying to stay afloat. Sleep came only in brief, haunted bursts, broken by dreams of voices whispering through the walls. Every creak sounded like breathing. Every gust of wind a warning. Marcus rarely spoke except to mutter about the cellar, that it was built over something ancient, that it wasn't just a basement but a holding place. When Sarah finally mustered the courage to look, she found etchings carved into the wooden frame. Initials, dates, tally marks etched by desperate hands. She counted 27 names. The oldest one read Blackwood 1954, the newest, E. Morrison, 1987. Her heart sank as she realized these weren't decorations or children's carvings. They were memorials, more confessions. The metallic smell from before grew stronger the deeper she descended, and in the corner of the cellar she noticed the floor wasn't original. A section of the concrete gleamed newer than the rest, like something had been buried beneath it. That night she woke to the sound of scratching from below, rhythmic and deliberate. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short again. SOS. Someone was asking for help. The next morning, she tore through the town's records, piecing together the house's cursed history. Every decade told the same story. A pregnant woman bought the property, moved in alone, then vanished before her child was born. No police follow-up. No headlines. Just another missing person swallowed by fog and time. And every deed, every sale led back to the same holding company, Blackwood Investments. When Sarah confronted Marcus, his eyes welled with something that wasn't guilt but grief. "They don't let them leave," he said softly. "The house needs them. It's always needed them." His voice cracked. "My sister tried to run. They buried her under the new foundation before it dried." The cellar door groaned open that night on its own, and this time, from deep below, came the faint, distant cry of a baby. Sarah's knees buckled. It was impossible, yet it echoed through the pipes, soft and pleading like a memory that refused to die. Behind the kitchen, hidden beneath a layer of warped wood paneling, Sarah found the passage Marcus had whispered about. It opened into a narrow crawl space, the air thick with rot and old salt. Inside were boxes of photographs stacked neatly like an archive. She wiped dust from the first frame and froze. A woman stared back at her. Dark eyes, sharp cheekbones, a smile she'd seen before in a mirror. Her own face only decades older. The name written on the back, Eleanor Morrison, 1923, her grandmother. Beneath the photos lay a stack of medical records, fertility treatments, research notes stamped with the emblem of the Meridian Institute. Every document traced back to a single project. Generational persistence, human trials, pregnancies. The dates lined perfectly with the disappearances. The locket she found at the bottom was engraved EM, and inside it a photograph of the same woman, pregnant and radiant, standing in front of the very house Sarah now owned. The house wasn't random. It was inheritance. Detective Morrison arrived a day later, gray-haired, tired, and too calm for what he'd seen. "Your grandmother worked for Meridian," he told her. "She wasn't a victim. She was a researcher. She helped build this place." The files confirmed it. The Blackwood property had once been part of a government study on genetic adaptation, studying maternal endurance under stress. Pregnant women were recruited under the promise of free housing. Most never left. Morrison's tone was careful, but Sarah could hear what he wasn't saying. She was part of the same bloodline that made this experiment possible. "Your family started this," he said quietly, "and they never stopped." That night, as lightning crawled across the sky, Sarah sat in the flickering candlelight reading her grandmother's final journal entries. Apologies written in trembling ink. The house doesn't just hold them, it remembers them. Then she heard it again, that same male voice from below, smooth and steady. "You were never supposed to find this place." The fire came before dawn, a hiss, a crackle, then a roar. Marcus burst into her room, face bloodied, shouting for her to run. Smoke filled the hallways as the old house exhaled decades of ghosts. Sarah fled through the tunnel beneath the kitchen, clutching a hard drive Marcus had forced into her hands. Everything's on here. Every name, every proof. Behind her, the walls split open like lungs screaming. The last thing she saw before escaping through the seaside cave was Marcus turning back toward the flames, his voice echoing above the storm. "They can't bury the truth forever." Hours later, firefighters found nothing but ash. No body, no documents, no evidence the house had ever stood. But the shoreline told its own story. Half-buried bones surfacing after every tide, whispering through the waves like the house was trying to rebuild itself from memory. Years later, when the coast was calm again, locals said they sometimes saw her, a woman standing barefoot on the sand, holding a child against her chest, her dark hair blowing like smoke in the wind. The new owners who rebuilt the house say strange things happen when it rains. Baby cries through the walls, light flickering where there are no bulbs, footprints appearing near the basement that no longer exists. They call her the mother by the tide, but Sarah Chen's story was never about ghosts. It was about legacy, the kind that bleeds, the kind you can't escape. The tide comes in, the tide goes out, but some names are written so deep in salt and bone that even the ocean can't wash them away. If this story found you tonight, take a breath. Let the waves in your mind settle. And if you felt the chill of this house as I told it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that should have stayed buried. Tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it where you're listening to this story?